Sigrid, let me start with you.
Yeah.
Your company has the coolest advertising. I live in Munich, but I always watch your advertising and I just love it. You build new tracks, you deploy new buses. Of course, you do that to improve the situation on the road. But how do you use digitization to improve your services to your customers?
Thank you for the question. I think the BVG has a special role in this game because the BVG is the biggest public transport company in Germany, and we have only in Berlin each day 3 million passengers. Each day 3 million passengers in Berlin.
So that's 1 billion per year?
1,045 million per year, yeah. And of course, we have a really an important role in this traffic game, in this mobility game, and that's why, and that's the reason why we not only use this funny advertisement, where we have these video clips, we have these designs, we have these sayings which are very unusual for a public service company. But the reason is we want to attract, of course, our customers. We want to show that also public transport can be cool, can be very intelligent. So we have our app, our BVG app. This BVG app is really the core of our traffic system. And in this app, you can see your route from door to door, really from door to door. You could say, okay, I'm here and I want to go there, and then you have all the public traffic possibilities in this app. That's the first step on our way to digitalization. And we have at the moment, I think, nearly 4 million users of this app. So we see the public or customers want to have this kind of digitalization. Of course, you can also buy your tickets in our app, but at the moment this is a little bit slowly. My colleague has told yesterday also on this conference that at the end of the year we will have an additional app which enables you to book your ticket for the public transport in 10 seconds.
We look forward to that very much. So, but in 15 years we'll have autonomous cars. And how do you feel about them? Do you see them as an addition to your service? How are you going to incorporate them? Or do you see them as a threat to your business? Will I take the autonomous car and drive right to the other end of the city with it? Or will I use it to go into the U-Bahn after all?
We will start our prototype with autonomous cars in, I think, February, March, on the area of the Charité, of this hospital area here in the city, because we want to be part of this first movement, because we think autonomous cars will be a real addition to our business. This is not a concurrence, but it's a business. It's an addition. Because autonomous cars are not the solution for the traffic situation in big cities. Because also autonomous cars use place on the streets in the city. So the only solution to solve all the problems in growing cities is to concentrate people in one vehicle. So we have 100 customers in a bus, 300 in a tram, and 500 customers in a tube. I think this is the solution. In addition, with autonomous shuttles or something like that, to realize the last mile, we are always saying it like that, from door to door with autonomous cars, perhaps some shuttle services in some areas, but the heart of the solution for growing cities will always be the public transport company with big vehicles.
So let's hope you make sure that will actually work that way. We'll get to that a little later. So when we leave the city, we hit the Autobahn, and then we come across one full lane of trucks on the right side, driving more or less slowly. What do you do at Fleetboard to improve that situation?
Yeah, hopefully the more trucks you see on the roads, the better the economy is and the better the business goes in the country. So we at Daimler Fleetboard do connect the truck into the internet, to the cloud, and then make solutions to make the logistics process more transparent and more efficient. So we are around since roughly 15, 16 years. With Fleetboard, we've been a spin-off of Daimler AG, so to say. We're a 100% subsidiary and making solutions for the complete logistics industry in 14 countries all around the world. And like our product that probably the most of our customers know and use is our performance analysis, where we are able to reduce fuel consumption by up to 15%. So that means also 15% less CO2 reduction. That's quite a lot if you looked at that a truck consumes roughly 28, 30 liters per 100 kilometer.
Well, I think that's an awful lot, because each generation of new engines usually lowers consumption by like 2-3%,
Yep.
maybe 5. 15 seems incredible. What
Yep.
do you do to people so that it actually turns out to be that high?
Yeah, so basically what we're doing is we're showing transparency how the truck driver is driving with the truck. Is he like braking right? Is he like, yeah, exactly. Is he like going like Lewis Hamilton with a couple of tons truck? Or is he trying to go a little bit calmer and a little bit more preventive on the, on the truck? So by gaining or providing that transparency, you can train your drivers, your truck drivers, how they could drive more efficient. And that does not lead only to less fuel consumption, less CO2 reduction, but also you can save workshop appointments, and you can use your brakes for longer. And there's quite a lot of amount that you can save with our solutions just by gaining transparency.
And do companies then use that maybe to even incentivize their drivers? Do they benefit if they drive properly or
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that basically the performance analysis is our kind of Coca-Cola formula, where we are really taking everything into consideration: how full the load is he driving through the Alps, or in Holland where it's rather flat, the area. And since the grade is so accurate, a lot of our customers have added a bonus system to their contracts with their truck drivers. So the better you're driving at the end of the month, the more money you get then additionally paid.
Okay.
Maybe you could apply that to your bus drivers. Well, they have to drive very evenly anyway, otherwise the people will crash through the bus.
A good idea. I think we should discuss it with the unions.
Absolutely, yes. We have also solutions for buses and coaches. So.
Okay.
Okay, so if we solve this problem in the city and we solve the problem on the Autobahn, we haven't quite solved it yet, but then we have to address the issue of parking. Yeah. So Nico, tell us, what is your approach to save us 50 hours of circling around and creating pollution per year while looking for a parking space?
Yeah, basically what we are doing is we are focusing on a mobile-based machine learning AI approach, which means that, just to give you a quick example, you have parked your car, you're going to a shopping mall, doing all your stuff, and after you have finished, you start heading back to your car. We detect this and can calculate that you, for example, will be in your car in 2 minutes. If I'm searching for a parking spot in that specific area, the app shows you that in 2 minutes the parking spot will be free, will be vacant, and directs me directly to the spot before the driver, before you or you are at your car. So we have this kind of prediction which allows us to increase the accuracy of the parking spots. Because, you know, you have systems like sensors, you have systems like statistics. Specifically, the sensor approach is really difficult. We discussed this. You have a binary information. You know, you have this information, the parking spot is occupied or not. And if you imagine, for example, I'm from Munich, Stachus is the city center. If an app like this shows me, based on a sensor, that a parking spot is vacant 500 meters in front of me, until I arrive there, the parking spot is usually occupied again. So that's what we're doing, is basically this kind of prediction and enhance this approach with machine learning, which learns from your behavior and can make better predictions.
And so what if 5 people approach this soon-to-be free parking space at the same moment?
Great question. We have 2 approaches to this. The first one is we're matching the parking spot with this perfect driver. That means that we're displaying the parking spot only to people that have a realistic chance to get to the spot. And of course, there are many situations where you have at least two drivers. We are working right now on an incentive system, karma points, we call them karma points. So karma points, yeah.
To be polite.
To be polite, yeah. So if you are actively participating in the whole system, you get more karma points, and in a competitive situation, the driver with the highest ranking gets a parking space.
Okay.
The information displayed.
But this means that you are really tracking the customers of the mall. Yeah, you have you see that they are already paying and that they will move to their car.
We see that we see this if he starts approaching the car in a radius of 500 meters. You know,
Okay.
we trigger the apps, and the app goes in a high alert mode, and that's the trigger for us when we start tracking the user. I know tracking sounds a little bit scary, but in order to provide such kind of services, it's definitely necessary to have this kind of information. Only good information can make good services, in our view.
And I get negative karma points if I only take my shopping bag to my car, dump it, and leave again. And then what happens?
Also, great question. We have this machine learning approach when we learn how you behave in specific areas and specific times. If you would do this 5 times, every time you for example, on a Monday at 7 o'clock, you do this 5 times, we learn that you probably will not leave and only put your bags into the car and then go for a coffee.
Yeah.
So that's the intelligence behind this system.
Okay, well, when will you be alive?
We will be live next year in Q1, depending on how we will proceed right now with our industry partners. Currently, we're finishing the Tech Founders Accelerator program in Munich from the Technical University. And yeah, we're looking forward to make it big in Munich. Maybe also start in Berlin, because Berlin has the advantage that mobile payment is already in use here, what we don't have in Munich. So it could be a potential good partnership for us.
Okay. We have a lot of parking place still in the city.
I'd like to talk a little bit about how people are willing or not willing to change their behavior. I personally believe that it's not enough to only share cars, we also need to share rides if we really want to reduce the amount of vehicles in the city. So do you have any ideas about ride sharing in BVG?
Yeah. The first point is we are already doing ride sharing.
Well, except for
except from the buses and the trains.
Right.
I understand this, but
I mean,
this is a big riding idea.
Yeah.
Buses and trains are the real idea of riding. So you can't solve the traffic problems in a city only with car or van sharing or something like that. Nevertheless, we are also working on the idea of shared cars and of course of pooling cars and pooling passengers to the rides. And we are just working on a pilot on this, and I think it's a great idea to do this as a part of the public transport in a city. Not a private company, but we will do it as a part of our official company. And I think this will be additional to our standard business, and we hope that we will find a lot of customers for this idea, because then they can have everything from one hand, the ride in the train, in the bus, and also in the shared car.
And when will this go live?
We will start in the next year.
Wow.
My colleague just said to me, don't say more about this, only it will start in the next year.
Okay. Well, car users like their cars. There is a change in thought. People are willing to give up their cars, especially the younger generation doesn't necessarily view it as a status symbol anymore or needs to own it. I only know one group of people who is even more proud of their vehicle or more protective of their vehicle, and those are usually truck drivers. They have signs saying their name and everything, and they decorate their car, they live in it. Yesterday at the conference you mentioned it would help sometimes also to utilize the trucks more, or even to get the drivers back home at night if they were willing to share.
Yep.
So what are you doing about that?
That's a huge topic, yeah. So the truck drivers really love their trucks. That's kind of their living room. They spend their free time there when they're on the parking space. They spend they sleep in the truck. So that's like very personal item. And we made an analysis and looked how much of the driving time is like really efficient with freight and where you're earning money. And you wouldn't imagine that only 35% of the time that a truck can drive, it is actually being driven. So 35%,
Wow.
the rest
That's
is
very
parking,
little.
workshop, administration, waiting times. So 35%. And if you look at those 35%, you see that 25% of that time the truck is driving empty around. So if you're next time on the highway in a traffic jam, every fourth truck that you see is empty or almost empty driving around, because it's very hard for logistics companies to find profitable freight going back from the main job, let's say. Therefore, we created a meta search engine for freight called Nextload, where we are providing our customers a chance to get additional freight and don't log into the over 190 freight brokering platforms that are around there. So that's one approach that we're doing. And the other approach is, it's hard to find truck drivers at the moment, because that is a job that has been, like in the 70s and 80s, truck drivers have been heroes. They've been the heroes on the road, driving around the most picturesque cities and views, and having that panorama view over all the other cars is pretty nice. But at the moment, it's hard to find truck drivers, good truck drivers, especially since you're spending so much time on the road. So just if somebody is like kind of fed up with his job and likes to see something completely different now, I can offer to make a connection to our customers. They are looking for truck drivers. But why is it? Because it's not so family friendly. It could be one approach to try to share trucks between two drivers, so that you come up to 70% of driving time. So when the one truck driver, after 8-9 hours, needs to take his break, then another truck driver could take over. But that is, as you said, a little bit difficult with the truck drivers being very attached to their truck and their living room.
Are you trying to do anything about it?
Yeah, we're looking into systems, first of all, to make the truck more efficient, more fully loaded. We're looking into concepts how truck sharing could be possible, that perhaps one truck driver is going for 4 hours into one direction and then another one takes over and going into another direction. These are ideas that you can go onto. So we're trying to make everything for the truck driver that his life gets a little bit more easy on the road.
Mm-hmm. Okay. One thing I'd like to get into on our highways, we are very used to road pricing. It's something that everybody cried out about when it came, but by now everybody's gotten used to it. In our cities, this is an absolute taboo as of today still, whereas space in cities is scarce. One approach could be to say we need to also price the roads upon entry, or price parking more expensively, or both. What is your take on that?
In my opinion, the future will show that there is no other possibility than to price also the parking space and also the entry by car in the cities. London is a good example for it, with the city mount, and also other cities will follow, because it's very egoistic if you show it like if you see it on the other way, that people can simply go by their car into the city, and there they are responsible for traffic jams, and everyone is angry about it, but nobody can change something. And then we have this discussion about the air pollution. And this is a very critical point, and I think today was the date with the chancellor about this, and I think the solution will be to have a city mount in future, and also to have very high prices for parking, because you can always tell people to change their behavior. They won't do it. Everyone knows it. Everyone says, okay, the others should change. Mm-hmm. But if you have to pay for it, then people choose very logically and say, okay, I will choose the cheaper solution. And if the cheaper solution is to go by shared cars or to go by bus or train, then they will use the other transport.
Or even enter the city at off times to spread out the traffic a little more.
Yeah.
I think that's a good example. Los Angeles did this a few years ago. They introduced a dynamic pricing in the city and forced people to either go to other not so crowded spaces or to take other transportation vehicles, like maybe the bike, maybe the tube or whatever. So I think it's a good approach to avoid all these traffic jams.
So you're not afraid of losing the future of your business model if fewer people drive into cities to search for parking?
No, not at all. I think individual mobility will still be there for the next years, and all this talks about autonomous driving, it's far away. It's far away. I can tell it from my automotive experience. We need a few years to come to this point, and I think the most important thing is to have, as you said, an end-to-end experience for the user, and that involves all the layers, from individual mobility to public transportation, and maybe later to autonomous cars.
And since this is the Bitkom conference, how can we organize these data platforms? Do you have a view on that? How can we organize all these data? Who should own the data? Who should have it? I'll ask all of you.
Well, first of all, I think the data always belongs to the person, to the company that produces the data. So it's always the customer's data. So you need to be very transparent and open on what you're doing with that data, and be very cautious with precious data. And I think that's very important. Being transparent, and probably not some person should own all the data, but should be rather a platform that you trust and you bring in your data.
Mm-hmm. Do you see it the same way?
Nearly the same way. The data shouldn't be owned by a company who wants to earn money with this data. No? I think this is a crucial point. Everyone wants to earn money. I think this data must be there for public service. They must be used to make better traffic in the cities. So, in my opinion, these data should be really public data. Used by, for example, the government or public service companies or something like that, which are owned by everyone in a city or in a land.
So would you be willing to publish all your traffic data from all your vehicles and everything for startups to work around and build upon that?
I'm willing to do it to everyone who will give me their data.
Okay, that's a deal. That's a deal. What's your stance on that?
I think it's a shared view. From the one side, of course, you have to acknowledge that some companies are doing hard work and collecting valuable data. So from the one perspective, you have to differentiate what data is your business secret, as I call it, or your business insight, which you have to keep for your own. And on the other hand, of course, you need to have public data to improve services and to make the startup ecosystem, especially for young companies that are seeking into the market and have not the access to big companies to have access to this data and create value for everyone.
Okay. Final round. Sigrid, what do cities really need to do to improve the situation of traffic overall? What would really have an impact?
Okay. I think First of all is parking shouldn't be free or shouldn't be cheap. Then we need something like a small city mode. We need there some regulation. Then we need really good public transport to give all the people an alternative to their private car. And they should be more interested in cyclists and in cyclists. Yeah.
Sorry, in cycles?
In cycles. So I think we should see cities as living space, and the goal of every government of a city should be to have free space and free space for the inhabitants of the city.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, yeah, for us the challenge is always to connect systems. In the logistics industry, you have a lot of fragmented systems, a lot of proprietary systems. So how we're addressing that is to open up our platform. We launched an app store where also third parties can launch their apps. So I think you're probably building an underground here. That's the sound. It's all about connecting the system, making the life of the players in the logistics industry more easy, more transparent, and that's what we're doing.
If we had another half hour, we would discuss about combination public transport for passengers with freight,
Yep.
but
Yeah,
that
we
will
could
have to
do
wait
so.
for another time.
Next
Well, last
panel.
word for you, Nico.
Same like the words from Harald. I think we have to connect more systems. We have to build ecosystems, especially the automotive industry, which is the main driver of individual transportation, has to work together with the cities to create platforms where everyone talks to everybody to have this kind of transparency and to have access to the data to create value for everyone.
So we have a lot to work on. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thanks a
Thank
lot.
you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.